Conflicts of interest. Hello, my name is Mark Andrews. I am the director or facilitator of the Redcliffe training webinar on conflicts of interest, and I'd like to spend a few moments just giving you some of the highlights as to what we will be covering during a webinar session. The webinar lasts either one day, or if you would prefer, we can deliver it in two separate parts over consecutive or separate days. Let's start by asking the obvious question, which is, what is a conflict of interest and why do they matter? You can see the formal definition in front of you of what a conflict of interest could be, but I prefer to use language that your mum and dad or a colleague or a friend could understand, and this would be my explanation. If a member of the public, or indeed if a professional, approaches a regulated institutional body for guidance, advice or recommendations, we are entitled to assume that that advice, that guidance and those recommendations are delivered in an unbiased, honest and independent manner, uninfluenced by third-party considerations or other financial temptations. So in simple terms, a conflict of interest means that in giving advice to a client, you might or could be influenced by relationships you have with other providers or other institutions. For markets to work well, we have to have confidence that conflicts of interest are managed adequately. And it's made difficult by the fact that there are actually three different types of conflict that can occur in a regulated market. Actual conflict probably needs no explanation from me. We are conflicted, we do have competing relationships. What are we going to do about that? Potential is where we could find ourselves conflicted by a third-party relationship. Much more challenging is perceived. And this is where some stakeholders, including customers, would look at the institution concerned and say, I suspect, I believe it is possible that there are background interests here that could influence the integrity of the advice, the guidance, or the product sales that I receive, even if the conflict doesn't in fact exist. Now, there are only two ways that we can manage conflicts. One is to eliminate them by making sure that they simply don't happen. Where that's not possible, or if we can only partially eliminate the conflict, we have to make full disclosure to the client so that having received the information that we could, might, or are actually conflicted, they decide to take our advice with full knowledge of the conflicting facts and the conflicting relationships. So during the course, we consider a number of these aspects, and more importantly, the two key challenges. Identify where conflicts of interest might lie in all their three variations, and how we manage, mitigate, eliminate, or alternatively disclose those conflicts to our clients. So we define a conflict of interest, we define the ethical threats, we look at the way that we can manage it, either rules-based, principles-based, or ideally a combination of the two. We then look at how we resolve ethical conflicts that might face us. We consider what best practice looks like for dealing with conflicts. And then we consider the much more challenging area, which is how do we manage these in practice? The course is highly interactive with case studies and discussion points. And hopefully by the end of it, you will have a full and practical understanding of the risks involved, how to identify them, how to manage them, and how to achieve best practice by being fully compliant with the obligations in this particular area. Well, I hope you find this brief overview interesting. If you did, and you would like more information, please feel free to contact Redcliffe Training on either the phone number below or by emailing us at the email address that you can see on this final slide. All that remains for me to do is to thank you for listening, and hopefully I can look forward to seeing you on a webinar sometime soon. Thank you very much.